Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Aye. Accept our humble obeisances. Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah. Give a quick introduction, Maharaj, then we'll get started. Hanumat Swami Maharaj, senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, born in 1948, Marion Silence, 1970. Maharaj completed psychology at the University of California with minor studies in biology and electrical engineering. First degree, black belt, Okinawa Auto Ryu. Initiated in 1974 by Srila Prabhupada. And Maharaj Board of Director in 1984 of Bhakti Vedanta Institute. Maharaj co-founded in 2004 North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies. Was also honorary professor in Ricardo Palma University in Lima, Peru. So we are very fortunate to have Maharaj today to hear from him. So much, Maharaj, for your association and time today morning. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Gora Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. I need someone to here we go. I have someone to respond to my class here. There he is. Okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Panchatattva Mokam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktyokam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Sahoditao Udaidye Pushpavanto Chitrasando Tumonudo. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon, who have appeared simultaneously on the eastern horizon of Gaudiya to benedict everybody wonderfully with love of God. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauraide Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tamonuro. So today we have again also, like Prabhuji says, it's very, very fortunate for us to be here in this central New Jersey Sangha. And of course that raises the question of what is Old Jersey? There must be an original Jersey someplace, yeah. And of course we know they have Jersey cows, so maybe it's an interesting place. It's a heritage. Yeah, and actually, yeah, I was born on Guam in the Marianas Islands, which my parents were there at the end of World War II. And it's an American protectorate, like a colony, and military base mostly. But as soon as I could travel as a little infant, I think we came back to United States. And my ancestors have been pioneers in Arizona, in the Southwest. And so a lot of I grew up with a lot of sunshine and dry desert space and Colorado River, and it's very, very, very nice atmosphere for cultivating the human spirit. Then they were working in California, so I graduated in psychology with I started in electrical engineering, because science was so prominent at the end of World War II. But I found out that was very limited. We're doing this for many lifetimes. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavan tyajati yanti kalevaram. And so here we are because of certain past activities. We're taking birth. And so very, very quickly, I was interested in Christian church, and when I was a little child, and my father and mother didn't have much inclination, my brothers and sisters. So finally, they would just drop me off, and I would go to church by myself, and was experiencing, finding some things, valuable in the experience, but a lot of just formalities, and people really didn't know so much, about God, but they were afraid of dying or something, or felt, something. So then started electrical engineering, studied quantum mechanics, saw the limits, changed to biological engineering, but basically also a mechanistic model. But now they're using chemicals, atoms and molecules rather than mechanical parts or electrons. So then I changed to psychology, and then there was some actual little bit of transcendence in that, and started improvisational theater, studying that. But my mentor for the doctorate, Donald Campbell, he said, "Hey, if you have any nerve or intelligence or courage, you'll go out and just go directly to Asia and experience what's going on there." So we did that, and we left the doctoral program, and then eventually came in contact with Srila Prabhupada and got initiated, and then helped the whole passionate hippie, era, book distribution program. And then with Swarup Damodar Maharaj, we joined the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And that my real academic inclination is cultural anthropology. And so science, which was the Bhaktivedanta Institute, a little boring, But we continued with that, and then eventually we started our own educational institution, NEOS, North American Institute for Educational, North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies. And with that, we've been doing very, very nice programs with different universities, National Museum of India in Calcutta, and very, very prominent personalities, Nobel laureate people like that, and so on. And so we have very, very fortunate we're here today, to be able to associate with your good selves, this Sangha, and maybe have more in the future. And I think maybe because Gaur Purnima is so close that Krishna Namananda asked us to talk a little bit about Bala, Bala, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's childhood pastimes, just about a week or so, maybe about like 10 days or something until Gaura Purnima. And of course, before that, we have Nityananda's appearance, we have Advaita's appearance, we have Madhavinda Puri's appearance, and so all these different persons who are antecedents to Lord Chaitanya's appearance, their festivals come before, and so we can be preparing. This is a wonderful aspect of our yoga, is that we can, every year we go in a circle. Our yoga is a spiral. It's the same thing again and again. Gaur Purnima again and again. Nityananda Triodasi again and again. But each time, a little higher or a little more profound. And so on these holidays, we have maybe we're fasting half a day or something, or one day. Yeah, so then we can memorize songs about Lord Chaitanya or Radhastami. We can memorize Radha Stava, and and so each year we can become more purified, more awake, and our intelligence can become more and more Krishna conscious to help us. So I was looking because in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Srila Prabhupada gave us, there's not too much about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as a child. Of course, Krishnadas Kaviraj specifically says that. He says, I'm following Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is the Acharya on the pastimes. And so there already has been written, Chaitanya Bhagavat, which covers Lord Chaitanya's childhood pastimes very extensively. So I'm not going to repeat those again, but some things that he didn't mention, I'll mention those. Yeah. And anything else? Yeah, I guess basically it. So then I some time ago, I found, I think it's on Amazon. It's a free download. You can download it to your Kindle reader or whatever you have. And it's Chaitanya Bhagavat, summarized by Purna Pragna Das. And he summarizes these things. His focus is teenagers, not children, not adults. So it's like some nice intellectual perspective, but also a lot of just, the adventure of the story and so on. His Ramayana is very excellent, but he also did other things, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So there on Amazon.com, you can find a nice English version. And I was looking at that with Chaitanya Bhagavat, and there was, very, very nice description. Also, Krishnadas Kaviraj is more literature, but as we understand, Chaitanya Bhagavat is more songs, many more songs like that, and it's meant to be read, and then was singing the songs for contemplation, meditation, like that. Very active. And of course, both of them are in the same ethos. They existed at the same time, practically speaking, as Lord Chaitanya. Within a few years afterwards, they could possibly talk to people who talked to Lord Chaitanya, who talked to the six Goswamis. And so by receiving their literature, we actually have a transport right to that atmosphere, and we can experience what was happening at that time. In terms of general world history, Lord Chaitanya was born 1486. And just 6 years later, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Yeah. And so Columbus was accredited with this discovering the Americas in 1492. So that for us who grew up in this Western history and all these kind of things, that puts it into a real proportion that I don't think the British had even, no, they hadn't even discovered the Orient then. They were just still in a kind of very, simple European state. I think it was in Chile, in Valparaiso. They have replicas of the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, the three boats that Columbus had when crossing, and they're not very big. You think of crossing the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean, and those things. And my God, these guys were expert and brave and everything else. So it was a very when Lord Chaitanya appeared, it was 500 years ago, and India was, and the world was steeped in a very, very, what's the word, concentrated, different world, different physical world. It doesn't mean that it is inferior to what's happening now. But we pay $50 a year and we get the Encyclopedia Britannica, for to use for our work. It's accepted by scholars, so you can quote from the Britannica for university programs. And there, as we remember the article on archaeology, it's saying that the 20th century was dominated by the idea of evolution. But then they're saying, but we're seeing archaeological miracles that just cannot be really explained. Cannot be explained. And they give evidence to a technological abilities which we don't have now. So to say that we're the highest technology is a little bit arrogant. And then also that culturally and philosophically and from this aspect, the also very, very what's the word? Very, very developed. So in the world, there's some more appreciation that evolution, at least in terms of the cultural phenomena and everything else, has some some perspectives that need to be examined. As far as they'll go. So when Lord Chaitanya was born, the world was not a global world where people were aware of wars 10,000 miles away and being fought with arms coming from all over the face of the world, and they weren't flying. We just came back. We were for like we were actually like maybe 5 months out of the U.S. and we in Europe. We spend our time in Spain and in Madrid, the temple there, near there. And then we brought an entire academic crew, a very artistic and academic crew from South America and places, and we're working on 4 movies to kind of consolidate our work, our preaching work. Yeah, and leave our results there, and we're putting those up. So we came back, and then we brought them there for 2 weeks. We had a very, very nice, intense filming program. And I stayed then in Radhakund. And it's amazing, even then, even little Radhakund, and this kind of, you get this local feeling, local atmosphere. But so many people were coming, continuously people, visiting Radhakund. And I would meet so many people who remembered me from years ago. Don't you remember me? You came to my house 15 years ago. This is my daughter. Yeah, she's grown up a little bit. Yeah. So when Lord Chaitanya was born, there was Arabic, Islamic, conquerors there, and the Hindus were carrying on, and the Arabs were also just making what's the word, not just like subjugating with absolute power, but also making deals with the Rajasthani Rajas, and including them in their courts and so on. So there was a very, very rich cultural atmosphere and some literature which you can look at to describe that. And also there were people with genuine mystical powers. We were considered mysterious. But Prabhupada said you just have to know the technology. You have to understand how one can control the prana, one can control the manas, and that way one can have access to different beings on subtle levels, and by their influence, and other things, one can do things which appear miraculous, unusual, because at the time, of course, we all know the antecedent. Navadvip was in a big mess with so many people worshiping Durga for material benefits, which doesn't please her so much, but she has her job. And so the Vaishnava is very unhappy. You go around now, and if anybody's a Vaishnava in central New Jersey, you drive on the freeways or something, and you see it's so gray and black and white, and sometimes red, and very miserable. And all the advertising clustered here and there, these flashy, superficial plastic signs, and Colonel Sanders, Ronald McDonald, just unlimited numbers of fast food places reading the same thing, basically salt and oil, and then down the street here from the temple in Houston, there's what do you call it, a pawn shop, big pawn shop. So you have eating fast food and living out of pawning your car clothes and stuff to survive and carry on with your next line of business. So the Vaishnavas in Navadvip were very upset to see all these people just caught in superficial, things like that, unintelligent. And of course, they were unable to change this, so they prayed for an incarnation, and that's a whole another story of the Lord Chaitanya's advent. But finally, Mother Sachi, brought Nimai to the light, as we say in Spanish, and it must also have been a mystical appearance, like Krishna's appearance in the jail cell of Kamsa, the prison of Kamsa. And of course, Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra are, Lord Devaki and Vasudev, in so many ways the same drama is being presented, but it's being presented in terms of, something which happened just 500 years ago. And so people can have so much access, to Lord Chaitanya because he's not that different in some ways. Krishna book when Krishna is 3 months old, he's being attacked by something like a 30 kilometer long witch. So right away, it's a real challenge to people's credibility in the modern world. But Lord Chaitanya, okay, some mystical powers and people, not more sophisticated modern people who've been out of the country and stuff and going to Peru and places like that, they can say, yeah, there are some things, and I can say, like archaeology, there's a lot of things that don't fit into our philosophy, O Horatio. And so then, and beyond that, Lord Chaitanya's activities with Prataparudra Maharaj and Sarvabhauma and Prakashananda Saraswati, are all quite comprehensible. So we like very much teachings of Lord Chaitanya to distribute to these academic people, intelligent people, educated people. It's basically for five like different sections, dialogues, discussions with different people. So it's very manageable. A little bit of association, and people can read it very nicely in sections, and very, very nice for that kind of people. So Mother Sachi spent her month in confinement after Lord Chaitanya was born. Then she came out and had a very, very cheerful bath with other ladies, and I guess younger ladies and everybody else. And so I think it's a very, very joyful, very playful bath after her time. And then, of course, Nimai started to grow up, and people could see him. And the neighboring people were coming. Demigods were coming and teasing the human beings and fooling around. It's like us playing with chipmunks or squirrels or something, and entering into the society of the squirrels who are all gathered around some exciting food and playing. And they would look kind of like shadows in the room. People would see it, they would think they saw a shadow in that room or corner, and they were also disenchanted with little Nimai's beauty. Of course, a little child can be so attractive, so beautiful. By nature's arrangement, of course, little children are so attractive to women. They're so attractive. By nature's arrangement, women, young girls, are so attractive to men. Okay, But if we use that for Krishna consciousness, if Krishna incarnates as a little child, then we don't have to do strange yoga. So in his little pastimes as a little child, he acted like a little baby, and he was so cute. And of course, we all know that he would sometimes cry and fuss and kick his little feet. And the ladies eventually figured out that when they would chant Hari, 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 he would become peaceful and so on. So right from the very beginning of his childhood, Lord Chaitanya, was inspiring people to chant the holy names. Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam. What's the other one? I'm trying to think of the other mantra there. Hello, ocean of faults. Eko Mahan Gunad, one good thing. Chanting Hare Krishna. Kalo dose in the day Rajon, Astahe Eko Mahan Guno. One good thing, one very good thing, Mahan Gunad. And just by chanting Hare Krishna, you can get out of this mess, and then you can start to understand who you are and act for your spiritual development, which is also, accompanied by the holy name. So right away, people were attracted, and Chaitanya Charitamrita describes very nicely that the wife of Advaita, she was coming, and she brought a necklace, I think, of tiger nails, and so many very auspicious things, not just like plastic toys or things from Toys R Us or whatever, but auspicious things that had a subtle connection to them, which generated a certain atmosphere for the child. And Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra were very pious. They belonged to the Brahmin community there. His father had relocated there, their families from South India. So they were South Indian Brahmins, it appears. But they didn't have a whole lot of, material opulence. And so receiving these guests and stuff, a little bit difficult. But at the same time, when Nimai came, everything started to become so opulent. There was, household paraphernalia, and people were donating pots and whatever they saw they needed, and grains and everything else. So they were in a simple position which is good for appreciating Nimai. But at the same time, they had such opulence in all aspects of kurkuma and ghee and incense and paraphernalia for worshiping the deity. And so then at some age, of course, Nimai began to crawl here and there. And there's a description of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh yeah, that Vishvarup. Yeah, Vishvarup, Lord Chaitanya's older brother. He would pick up Nimai, carry him, and also play with him, like that sense, And so and he's an expansion or incarnation of Balaram, described that way. And so right away, this feeling of Balaram being the protector of, Vatsalya Ras. And Sakya Ras was some Dasya Ras and some Vatsalya Ras, because he's big brother, So very, very satisfying position for Guru. Guru being big brother of Krishna Bhagavan. So in this atmosphere, Lord Chaitanya was growing up, and one miraculous pastime mentioned, of course, one big snake, like that, maybe this wide or something. He came into the yard, and then everybody was screaming and yelling and whatever. And so you understand, he kind of curled himself up a little bit, and Nitai was playing with him, and then he laid down on his coils like that, and I don't know if he fell asleep or not. But I'm surprised nobody tried to chop his head off or something, but maybe he was just too ferocious. So he was an Antasesha. I think eventually disturbed by all the ruckus, he left. And little Nimai wanted to toddle after him, but his parents were restraining him and so on. So Antasesha was receiving him. Another time, there's a story that some thieves, because when he grew up, he became so restless. He was running everywhere, and really impossible to restrain him. In the modern world, of course, people think this is terrible. The child will be, assaulted. So many things will happen. But I've seen, I went to India first time in '78. So many times being there, and just going deep into the culture. So many very close friends. That in India, people, on the train, our disciple Raktak Das, first disciple, a Punjabi buffalo-headed Punjabi. We were traveling with his wife and their little daughter, Lakshmi, on the Tufan Express, one of those trains, from Vrindavan to Calcutta, and it was overnight, one night at least. And of course, everybody's sitting there and it's going along, and so we were doing like second class, was a 3-tier sleeper, second class. And then one lady came up, and she was sort of, admiring the little baby, Indian lady, and she picked it up and walked off with her baby, And I said, "Do you know her?" And he said, "No. I said, "Well, she just took your baby." He said, "Well, she'll bring her back." That was so in the West, this was just so shocking that the whole general atmosphere of the whole place is much more social. Standard. There's a standard that people know what's happening. So anyway, Nimai was running around and running down to the Ganges to play and everything else. When he was a certain age, he started walking properly. He was still a little child, And so these 2 thieves saw him. They all these gold ornaments, and they thought, okay. And they walked up and they said, "Oh, so and so, it's been a long time since you've seen your uncles, and let us take you home." And Nimai said, "Oh yes, please take me home." So they picked him up, and people were looking and thought, okay, these people must, know Nimai, and we don't know them. So they walked off, and they were heading for their hideout. Let's go looking for our hideout. But Nimai, of course, was bewildering them and directing them to take him on a little pleasure tour all around the place. And just by carrying Nimai on their shoulders, they were acquiring so much activity, so much pious activities, so much credit. What I'm thinking right now is of Kaliya. Maybe one of them was Kaliya in his previous life, and now he's carrying Nimai, or was it, or Palambasura? Palambasura. And now they're carrying Nimai, and again getting benefits. So eventually, of course, Nimai directing them right back in front of the house, and everybody was looking for Nimai, and they became a little, shocked and frightened, and put him down, and everybody was running towards Nimai, and they slipped away, and they were so bewildered about what had happened like that. Then, of course, there's a story of the pilgrim Brahmin who was traveling all over the place, and he was an extremely austere, simple person, only taking Mahaprasad. And somehow or other, he came to Navadvip, and he saw Nimai, and was very attracted. And Jagannath Mishra said, "Oh, sir, please cook in our house. Please cook in our house and take your meals here." So, of course, he cooked one time and was offering it to the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord came in the form of Nimai and took a big handful of the offering and ate it. And the Chaitanya Bhagavat says the Lord Jagannath Mishra was going to take a little stick, a firm stick, and whack him like anything. But the Togan Brahmin grabbed his hand and restrained him and said, he's a little child. He doesn't know what is right or wrong, everything else, And I'll just take whatever fruits and roots you have. I said, I don't take grains every day anyway. So Jagannath Mishra was really convincing him, boy, unless you take grains in our house, we're all going to go to hell. Okay, so he cooked again, and Nehemiah, of course, took the prasad again, and now Jagannath Mishra was really upset. The whole family had to restrain him and everything else, So finally, the Vishvarup came, and Vishvarup convinced the guy to take Brahmin to take more than just fruits and roots. So he cooked for a third time, and now everybody was asleep. All the doors were locked, and Nehemiah appeared. And the Brahmin was just enchanted by his beauty and everything else. And then he said, can you complain? Nehemiah said, how can you complain? You keep calling me with such an intense affection. I just can't avoid it. Like, how can I not eat what you're cooking when you offer with so much concern and affection, sincerity and austerity, So, you've been my servant many lifetimes, but I had to show myself to you. But if you talk about this while I'm here, I'll punish you like that. So I'm sure, it's kind of strong relationship. So then Nehemiah took rest or something, and the Brahmin was just chanting Narayan or something in ecstasy. Everybody woke up, and then he knew that he couldn't. Lack of oxygen. He knew he couldn't talk about it, but okay, so he didn't. But he stayed there several days, and he would go begging, and every day he would go to Jagannath Mishra's house and see Nehemiah. So many pastimes. Prabhupada came to Atlanta. Maybe you're familiar with the temple down there. So it's the closest temple to us. And he was there maybe for maybe 3 days, I think, only. And mostly because they had won like the marathon or something, book distribution. And so he went there because of that. And the devotees who were there said it was a temple room, not so big, I think like the Tawako temple is now or something, that's it's a good, reasonable size, but not so big, even not that big maybe. And devotees said it was packed full on the first day, but somehow or other it was like twice as full the second day and 3 times as full the third day. But somehow or other everybody just fit in, And then so many experiences, Jayapataka Maharaj always gets people to tell their experiences during those times. And it was like Prabhupada would look at one devotee and maybe just wondering where the devotee got his glasses or something. He liked them, And then this glanced at him, and then the devotee would have an experience, by the mercy of the Paramatma, that would take 5 minutes to explain, or 10 minutes, about what his experience was and the perspective and the attitude and how it just was a fundamental part of his spiritual life from that point. So yeah, that's what the super soul does many things for the spiritual master. So after that, so when Nehemiah was there, of course, so many pastimes were being carried on with different people like that. And then the Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata every day were experiencing unusual things. And then Nehemiah would throw stuff all over the room when they weren't there, like Krishna. And he'd come in, he would be a little baby again, and they're wondering who did these things. They were thinking it must have been some demon who was frustrated, and these things weren't unusual in that sense. It was not like, they had to call in the Ghostbusters from Harvard University to investigate this. It's just that they really were, devils and things going on at that time and so on. So one last story here, one for me, is that we a little later, but as we understand that Murari Gupta, he was in the same school where Nehemiah as a small boy was going to study. I think he was studying in Ganga Prasad's school to start with, or something like that. And he very quickly, mastered all of his primary school activities, and and then so you should start studying in the house of I forgot the name of the pundit. Maybe it was Ganga Prasad, but it's there. Very nice person, not maybe think 35 years old or something, 38 years old, maybe 40 years old. So Murari Gupta was also a student there, but it appears that he was like, a bigger boy, like maybe like Nimai was starting there maybe at 5 years old, and he was maybe like 9 years old, 10 years old. So as we understand, Mother Sachi said, okay, you walk with Nimai to school every day. You have to go through the fields there, and it's a little bit of a walk. And of course, he should go. It's a wonderful teacher, wonderful school. But you're a big boy. You go with him. And so, of course, Murari Gupta is an incarnation of Hanuman. Hanuman, yeah. And he of course, he's a strong monotheist, worshiping God. Yeah. But the Lord Chaitanya, of course, in his youth was like being naughty and always pretending to be a materialist, and always giving very fantastic arguments to defeat Vaishnava culture. So Murari Gupta and Lord Chaitanya on the way to school would engage in these arguments, coming back and forth. And Lord Chaitanya would just irritate Murari with these outlandish arguments and all these kind of things like that, and so on. And every day this would go on, going back and forth, back and forth. This kind of reminds us of Krishna fighting with Jambavan, and neither master or servant would give up. Neither one of them would admit defeat. Lord Chaitanya kept preaching materialism, and Murari Gupta kept preaching monotheism. And at night he would be absorbed in thinking about the arguments and looking for citations and references. So Lord Chaitanya was favoring him. Hare Krishna, oh Radha, please pray to Krishna, pray to Rama, to show us their forms, to stimulate us to get involved in their pastimes, which are going on right now in the material world. To reclaim the fallen souls. So then eventually, of course, the point was that Lord Chaitanya became a Vaishnava. This is a little bit later than this. Is more like the childhood. This is like the boyhood pastimes in his youth. Lord Chaitanya in his youth, and then he was trying to preach to Murari Gupta to also become a Krishna Bhakta. But Murari Gupta the next morning came back and he said, "Please kill me, because I cannot surrender worship of Raghunath. I just can't do it. I've just given my heart and soul to him. But I can't disobey your order because I know you're the same Lord. So just please kill me." And Lord Chaitanya started laughing like a madman and said, of course you can't give up the worship of Ramachandra. You're an incarnation of Hanuman, like that. And so so many very nice pastimes, very deep, very profound, very, very, what's the word, important. Lord Chaitanya was engaged in important activities. And we, of course, can become more and more intimate just by chanting Hare Krishna, following the process for chanting, which is given, which includes some study of Shastra, worship of the deity, karma yoga for Krishna. And then we can become even in this lifetime, we can experience and understand how we're engaged in these pastimes. And then maybe in our next lifetime, we can take birth along with Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip. Maybe we be a puppy at our first birth or something. So it's a little bit of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya as a child, and especially they're attractive to those people who are, involved with this Vatsalya Ras, and that kind of feature. So any questions or comments at this point? Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Vita Chandra.
You can unmute and ask or raise a question.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Thank you so much, Maharaj. Balya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You're on mute.
I was just chanting all the auspicious names here. Namananda, Madhupati, Amala Gopika, Carlos from Chile, Dhira Govinda, Himanshu, Iskan CNG, Krishna Priya, Kunal, Niranjan. Oh my goodness. Parasram Avatar Das, also from Chile. Yeah. We circulated the the link to our followers: Sandeep, Saran Radhika, Devidasi, Manipur. No. Sarit, okay. Satyabhama, Subhanga, Sweta, Singeshwaradas, Sumal Saka, our good friend Amadaji from Richmond. Okay, yeah. So any comments, questions? We can go on talking about, that's kind of all we know about Bala Leela of Lord Chaitanya. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I would like to ask a question.
Okay.
Please. I think it's a kind of technical question. I don't remember the name, but that associate of Nimai, you said that he is an incarnation of Hanuman. So, yeah, my question is, how is possible that because Hanuman, I understand he still alive for the whole material existence. So my question is, a jiva of that level can occupy two bodies, for example, or that's my question. How is possible that, or like Lord Shiva,
we also see like Ramananda Roy is considered incarnation of Arjuna and Vishaka, like that, But my understanding is it's very simple. I mean, for our intelligence is, to this, what do you call it, to the Gandharvas and the Apsaras and these kind of people, we look like rats, and how intelligent is a rat, and how complicated is a rat's, like life, material life, Then to the real demigods like Indra and Varuna, we look like cockroaches, like that. And cockroaches, they have their cities and they do stuff and so on, in a different character. Then to Brahma, we look like atoms and molecules, So you can drive a car at the same time, carry on a conversation with somebody, carrying on a conversation with somebody at the same time as drive a car. So what is the difficulty? And maybe you're driving to a very nice place, so it's very, it's a good, nice thing, but you're also talking to your friend, maybe talking about where you're driving, externally. And so what's the difficulty then for Hanuman, such an elevated personality, to be able to, to manipulate, to drive a vehicle in Lord Chaitanya's external pastimes in Kali Yuga? So that's what one thought that comes to my mind. Does that help at all?
Yes, very interesting. So that kind of personalities, direct associated with Bhagavan, they can drive two or maybe more vehicles. Yeah, very interesting, amazing.
Yeah. My Hanuman imitation. Hanuman. Yeah. So Lord Chaitanya's appearance is happening very quickly, and my travels and my experience now in Lord Chaitanya's movement here, and of course, we say we go to Europe and especially Spain and in India. 1978 was the first time we were there, and one very, very close friend, Professor Samaresh Bandyopadhyay, who was head of the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture at Calcutta University. And, so many friends in ISKCON there and in different preaching activities. And of course, we're very much integrated with the preaching in Imphal and Manipur, because Bhakti Swarup Damodar was our sannyas guru and our Sankirtan leader for the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and a very close friend, And so we did a tour of Agartala, Silchar, all these places just before we left India in Radhakund. And we're seeing that, all over the world, Prabhupada says in the beginning, they will laugh at you. Oh, Hare Krishna. Ooh, 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 where'd you get the ponytail? Yeah. And then they'll see, well, these people are determined, and they're changing people, and people are following them. So then they'll become aggressive and try and restrict us, or even kill us in some cases. So because laugh at us, try and restrict us. And he said in the third stage, then they'll actually become interested and become curious and consider there's some real benefit here. Adoshwada, sadhu sangha. So to me, see, all over the place is definitely we've come to that stage now. And the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks about all the general summary of the basic principles of Bhakti Yoga and the material world, Sankhya, but it's not enough detail to actually apply it. So third chapter, Prabhupada says that Arjuna starts to do vritti, bhakti, professional devotional service, vritti. And he says all living beings subsist upon grains. Grains come from rain. Rain comes from sacrifice. Sacrifice means doing your duties according to Varna Ashram. And that's described in the Vedas. So then whatever job or inclination we have in the social world, responsibilities, then we see, okay, now I can do this for Krishna. And this is very, very practical connection and solid, substantial, very secure. So we take that up and we, according to our own particular nature and so on, and get involved, and the spiritual master engages us. So at that point, we see many devotees are not only, for example, in my area, are not only respected professors in their areas, but now they're like emeritus professors. It's gone on so long that some devotees have gone through their entire careers and gained honors and awards and friends and connections. And now they're retired, but they're still, now people appreciate their wisdom and their advice and want to invite them to participate in programs and ask them questions and so on. And so then it becomes known. Maybe in the beginning they're hiding the fact that they're ISKCON devotees, but very quickly, now everybody knows. Oh, he's a Hare Krishna. Well, he's a Mormon. Bob's a Mormon, and Jeff is a Hare Krishna. Professor so and so's Hare Krishna. Oh yeah. What? I've heard about them. My cousin, was associating with them for some time. There've been a lot of people who've come to ISKCON and been involved in various degrees for some time, and had some, some experience, some knowledge in different ways and some taste, but they never came to the point of, first initiation or things like that, out of the light there. Okay. All over the world, so many people. And now that little experience they have, that bija, they're thinking, well, what about them? There's no government in the world which people trust. I mean, maybe some small countries here or there, but basically every single country in the government in the world, people think they're incompetent, and not only are they dangerous, but they're stupid, and the world is becoming so boring, so what's the word? Was it friendship, peace, no prosperity? That's the word Prabhupada uses. Without prosperity, without friendship, without peace and a common cause, and all these things are just very possible. Because of Lord Chaitanya's movement. So in the beginning, we have to learn to duck, not be attacked. And then we have to learn how to tolerate being laughed at, or then we have to learn how to duck. But now what we have to do is we have to actually be able to start answering serious questions. United Nations say, can you give some help for these people with this war? Can we have some people who are willing to listen? Can you come and participate and talk about how these problems can be solved? So many opportunities may quite really come. When I was in Spain for the last month, the classes were all on the conversation between Jada Bharat Maharaj and Maharaj Rahugana. And I like to put these things, my theater background, world classical literature, into modern ambience. And of course, I read it many times, but there was with very nice devotees and good devotees. And so really beginning to appreciate this. It's the same thing. We're not the body. This is exactly what Jada Bharat's preaching, but he's preaching it to a different kind of person. He's preaching it to Maharaj Rahugana. And my impression of Maharaj Rahugana in the modern world was somebody who's like a, who's a commander of a tank squadron, or maybe with 5 tanks from Russia. And he's an honorable guy. Even if, the politicians told him to do something dishonorable, he wouldn't do it. He has this ethos passed down of what it means to be a soldier and be a captain, something like that. But his tanks need water, and they're along by a river bank, and so he just like conscripts some of the local Ukrainian people with some threats, and I'll blow your village up unless you do what I say. And they say, all right, So he has them passing up buckets of water, and they're putting it in his tanks. And one guy is, hopping around and is getting half the water spilled. So he starts chastising him, and the person then looks at him and then considers, okay, this guy is not an ordinary guy, and starts to preach to him about Sankhya. What is this world? What is the soul? How it's different than the body? And at this point, this guy realizes, because he is an Orthodox Christian, he goes to church, Russian Orthodox church, and prays and likes it. So you begin to appreciate that this is Maharaj Rahugana. He's a pious person, but he's attached to his material position, but it's a good material position because it's a Kshatriya position. And so the whole Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya was so much concerned. Wow, here's another pastime. I can tie these in now. Because when he was a little child, he first was crawling. Of course, they gave him the option of so many different things, kinds of paraphernalia and spices and kurkuma and toys and sweets and everything else and gold. And he was attracted to the Bhagavatam right away. It says he took it and hugged it to his chest, So Lord Chaitanya and the Bhagavatam, they're not different, Understanding Chaitanya Charitamrita is a Srimad Bhagavatam class. It is a Srimad Bhagavatam class. And every single psychological circumstance we can encounter is there. And so because of that, we take these stories to heart, we make dramas out of them, we contemplate them, we talk about them, preach them, then we'll see. We'll be competent to preach to all these people we meet, even if it's somebody like that, like I was saying, like some Russian, sergeant or something with 5 tanks under his command. We begin to see this is the kind of person it is. And of course, it's elevated people, socially or whatever, who can actually appreciate, Bhagavat Dharma, Vasudeva Sarvamati, not common people. But if the leaders lead, so the Bhaktivedanta Institute probably said, if you make a scientist a devotee, 1,000 people will be following him. 1,000 people will become devotees because of him. And so preach man to man, okay, or take 1,000 times as long and make one scientist into a devotee. Find your position in the Sankirtan movement, become a preacher. And we are. It's our nature. We all like to talk and communicate with people. So, any final questions or comments here?
Thank you so much. Like no other questions.
Yeah. Everybody is thunderstruck and dumbfounded.
Since we were discussing earlier about Murari Gupta,
and
Hanuman,
yeah,
I was thinking if you can elaborate on how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Murari Gupta to meditate and chant Krishna, but then he was not able to, other than Lord Ramachandra is a worshipable Lord. So how can we develop strong determination to do service like Hanuman and strong attachment to his Lord? So how can we develop that attachment service?
Well, in some ways, the whole thing on the origin of the jiva, because it was ago Karze Udaya, Shabanadi Shude Chete Karze Udaya. It's not something. It's Sadhya Kabunaya. I'm missing the very first part there.
Nitya
Siddha. There we go. Yeah. Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhya Kabunaya, Shravanadi Shude Chite Karze Udaya. So right there it says that it's an eternal perfection of the soul in Krishna Prema. So Prema it doesn't mean a neutral state or something. It means the aggregate of the rasas. So it's all a matter of not like how can we become attached to Krishna, but it's a matter of what Socrates said. I said, I can't teach you anything. All I can do is help you wake up and remember. So that's what mostly we're trying to do, is just wake up to our actual position, and then we start to discover that somebody comes to the level of Raganuga and this and their stuff, and then they're the deity worship, and even though they're in a male body, they feel tremendous maternal affection for Krishna and cooking for the deities and making sure that everything is cooked nicely so that the deities don't burn their lips on the things. And against somebody else may be in a female body, have a female persona, but they're very inspired by the Muda Bhima. So they become like internally and so on, So that's one thing I would say, that we can really suspect that it's a matter of just following the process and becoming purified. And then when we come to the level of going beyond Vaidhi Bhakti and rules and regulations, then applying those very nicely, getting the result, then Raganuga, then we can we find people who are in the same attitude, perspective, bhava that we're in, buddhi, and then we start to associate with them, and we start to do book distribution the way they do it, or we start to, make the deity offerings and the way they do it. And in their association, we can do it. Alone, we have to kind of follow the rules and regulations, but when they're with their association, then we can actually, do it with feeling and stuff. And of course, that stimulates our real feelings until finally it goes to Bhava Bhakti, and it's no longer the starter motor on the car. Raganuga is like the starter motor, da. Yeah, okay. And you tell that's the starter motor. I'm experiencing some things, but it's not really real. But then, the motor catches and yeah, and we know, well, that was my real feelings. And and I got to go on with the starter motor a little bit and adjust it and pump the gas pedal, and then okay, now finally I'm at Bhava Bhakti. And now my real feelings are there, but they're not, really straightened out that much. The motor has to warm up a little bit more. And so then there's a stage of advancing. I won't say a process exactly, a stage of advancement in Bhava Bhakti, where we know our rasa with everything, Krishna, everything else, but it's a matter of, Krishna being the aggressor and stimulating us, and then we become fully attached and awake, Does that help? This is some of our ideas about, how these things happen.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. Nitya Siddha. Yeah. What do you do? Are you a brain surgeon, or do you teach student drivers? A lot of Indians, they get that job, teaching people how to drive automobiles. What is your good self? How are you occupied? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm in the technology space as a solution architect, trying to solve the problems of the body and soul, maybe to some extent.
Oh, are you doing medical science? Or are you doing software engineering for?
No, technology, Maharaj. Solution architect.
Which tech?
Pretty much cloud solutions.
Oh, okay.
For pharmaceutical.
No, one of my disciples, Tanu Subramanian, I forget what it was called. He was MD Online. I think when he worked for MD Online or something. And the same thing too. They were keeping for all the insurance records and everything else for so many medical people. MD On, and maybe it was called. He said it was very big, maybe a big percentage of because everything in the modern world is so industrialized. Medicine also is just, anyway, it's a whole other topic. Okay, I should go now because 8 o'clock and I'm supposed to pack up here and run back over to Sinila Madhava, and we're doing initiations right after the Sunday feast today. So I hope you have are you having a Sunday feast there? Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj, please come. This is the place where Srila Prabhupada spent his time in Long Beach, New Jersey. So, please come to ISKCON of Central New Jersey. Our President, His Grace Madhupad Prabhu, is there on the line, inviting you. Please come. We are very close.
We'll see.
From tobacco.
I'm kind of flying wherever Alihiant flies. They fly to Boise. They fly to Richmond. My airlines. Okay, thank you all very much. Sarit Satyabhama Subangi Sweta, Subal, Sudipta, every begins with an S. Like that. Hare Krishna, Haribo. Where'd my monkey go? I lost my monkey. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Radhe Radhe.
Haribo.
All goes to
Hare
Shri.
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Maharaj, thank you so much. Thank you.
We will have Sunday feast program on today evening. So please join 5:30 to 9. And upcoming celebrations, Gaur Purnima, March 6th. Before that, Friday is Ekadasi and Dwadasi, Govinda Dwadasi, very important day. So we have only 1 week time for celebrations for Gaur Purnima. So we need a lot of your help. So anyone is available for services, please let us know. Contact one of us. A lot of decorations to be done, Abhishek, cooking, so many services are there. We need a lot of planning and execution. So let's get ready to celebrate in most gorgeous way, pleasing to Sri Prabhupada. So contact me or one of us, Madhupad Prabhu, Meza Prabhu, Devkinanda Prabhu, so that we can celebrate it nicely. And like to order govindasnj.com. You can place your orders there. Okay. And see you all in the evening. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe.